Scotty Nell Hughes, should we, and also Calvin Dark to talk about it in more detail, not just President Biden, but what we saw over the weekend with the attempted assassination of former President Trump. Scotty Nell Hughes, to you first of all, always good to see you. What do you talk to me about his running mate, first of all, if you would please, JD Vance? It's an interesting choice.
It is an interesting choice, but when you're dealing with two older white gentlemen, let's bring some youth onto the ticket. I think it was a very wise choice to bring on JD Vance, a 38-year-old blue collar, comes from a blue collar family, even though he does have a very established Yale law degree, has a beautiful wife that brings some diversity as well to the ticket. And I think this is a very good choice. Obviously, the Republican base was enthused about it last night. And as people continue to get to know JD Vance, it's not only about 2024 when it came to the vice presidential candidate, it's about 2028, because now JD Vance has become the heir apparent to the White House. And whether we're talking about Republicans or Democrats right now, this is not just a 1 or 2 year cycle. We're looking ahead into the next 10 years about what to forecast for the Republican Party.
What do you make, Calvin, of the choice?
Well, I think it was a smart choice for Donald Trump, and I think it particularly addresses the areas where the Biden campaign is weak. First, age. I have to get used to the fact that we could have a vice president younger than me. I'll have to deal with that on my own. But also, J.D. Vance is really good at communicating his message, particularly in the states that Joe Biden has to win. And as we saw in that interview, I think one of the unfortunate things that President Biden isn't realizing is it's not just the fumbles. It's the fact that he's not able to communicate the message of why he's the best alternative. And J.D. Vance can do that, whether you agree with him or not. So I think that combined with his youth is an amazing contrast.
I'm just looking at a story that's in one of our papers this morning, Scott. It'd be interesting to hear what you think about that. It's just sort of come to my attention over the last half an hour or so. And Senator Vance has apparently said the world's first Islamist country with nuclear weapons is the UK.
These are always fun, Kay. I love these. The joy of being at 1 a.m. in America, I get to get the news cycle ahead of time. Obviously, J.D. Vance is going to have some controversial comments that he's coming from. He hasn't been in a lifelong in politics. He actually just got on board probably about the last 4 or 6 years he's gotten politically active. So he's going to have some comments that are obviously going to come under scrutiny over the next few weeks as they get put out. But I have to agree with Calvin. I wake up this morning going, I'm going to have to get used to a vice presidential candidate who is younger than me as well. And I like to think, Calvin, that you and I are the fountain of youth, that we're still pretty youthful. So a lot of people are going to question not only his inexperience in politics, but also his inexperience of being in the public eye. And comments like that made is going to have to require some answering for. And I think that's what we're going to find J.D. Vance being held accountable for in the future.
Calvin, is there any chance that President Biden, we know he did his interview last night, went much better than the previous debate. Is there any chance he won't be the Democratic nominee?
I think there's a very good chance, and I also think that time is running short. I think what a lot of people in the Democratic Party are realizing now is that the damage done to the confidence in whether or not Joe Biden can serve for 4 more years is not just about the White House, but it's about the House of Representatives winning that back and maintaining the Senate, which is going to be a challenge. Because if Democrats accept that it's risky losing the White House, one of the houses of the legislature is the only stopgap to Donald Trump. And so I think that pressure combined with pressure from donors is going to make Joe Biden withdraw, or at least is going to make him fight. And he needs to be using that energy in his campaign. So either one of the two things is going to happen.
Scotty, terrible scenes at the weekend. Lots of questions for the Secret Service to answer over the coming days and weeks. But how do you think that the former president has dealt with events since then?
Well, make no mistake, the reason why we're not talking about Joe Biden resigning immediately from the race is because of the events that happened Saturday night. The gunman came to take Donald Trump out. Instead, I think he got him elected to the Oval Office. And not only that, but it's those down ballot tickets. I mean, let's think about it. Tonight, you had at the RNC, you had a union, the leader of a major union in the United States, actually stand up for the first time and speak how on behalf of Donald Trump, saying he didn't endorse him, but the fact that he was even there speaking, appealing to those blue collar workers, that people were absolutely enraged at what happened Saturday night, and that inspired him to be a part of the programming for the Republican National Convention. That is historical for Republicans, as they've usually had a hard time reaching out to the very powerful union establishment within the United States. So I think the unfortunate events of Saturday night, but the fact that Donald Trump stood up and he was and he showed strength from literally 5 to 10 seconds after he was shot, that appeals to not only Republicans, not only engaged his base, but those independents that were wondering about all the questions right now, strength. And that's one thing that Americans desire in their leadership, and Donald Trump showed it Saturday night.
A final thought from you, Calvin. Do you think, given where we are today, if the election was tomorrow, that we'd be looking at President Trump for a second term?
Yes, the election was tomorrow. But I think one of the things to look for on the Democratic side is, after having seen the first night of the Republican convention, I think a lot of Democrats are going to be looking at the many people on the Democratic side, the youth and diversity that could go against Donald Trump, who is a weak candidate. And then they're going to look at who we have in our as our candidate. And I think that may move things along.
OK, we must leave it there, guys. Let you get to bed. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.